Part 46. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 451. The sky above the fortress has returned to clarity. Stars and spirits are blooming brightly in the sky. There are no nightmares, no pain and struggle. Everything seems so quiet and beautiful. There is only one layer above the earth. The thin mist was floating, covering up the desolation and ugliness on the ground. The whole world was like a world in a fairy tale. Mulao stood on the wall of the fortress, staring at everything in front of him with nostalgia and emotion. I don't know how long it took, but as the sky gradually became brighter, the star spirits woke up one by one. The sky in the spiritual world gradually returned to clearness, and the earth returned to its original appearance, except for the military camp in the distance. But could no longer see half a puppet corpse and half a nightmare insect. The ground trembled slightly, and the huge figure of the Flame King was running on the ground, running towards the direction of the fortress. Every step covered hundreds of meters. Before, it was a tall figure dozens of kilometers away. In just a moment, he had already rushed into the wilderness outside the fortress, and then slowed down. At this moment, the Flame King Kong is like a sword reborn from the fire. His whole body is flashing with a layer of pure metallic silver light, shining brightly. Compared with last night, he feels like he has been reborn, with no trace of time left behind. Markov. Seeing the Flame King's return, Mulao went down from the fortress tower, removed the fortress's protective shield, walked out of the fortress gate, and came to the wilderness. With all the stone statue guards, he lined up outside the fortress to welcome Xiaopinggan's arrival. The huge Flame King Kong came to Mulao with its endless oppressive aura, knelt down, and then opened its entire mouth. Xiaopinggan walked out of the huge Flame King Kong's mouth. The Flame King Kong stretched out a hand, letting Xiaopinggan walk onto its hand, and then gently put his hand on the ground. Xiaopinggan stepped down from the huge palm of the Flame King Kong, and finally landed on the ground. The open mouth of the Flame King closed again, and the huge figure turned into a ray of light and fell on Xiaopinggan. The Flame King Kong disappeared, and on Xiaopinggan's neck, there was a silver necklace of the Flame King Kong. "Congratulations to your Majesty for your victory and your return to the fortress," Mulao said to Xiaopinggan. All the stone statue guards raised their weapons to welcome Xiaopinggan back. "Mr. Mu, to be honest, I haven't figured out what happened yet." Xiaopinggan touched the silver necklace around his neck and felt that everything in the spiritual world was too magical. "At that time, I felt that I was about to be killed, about to be burned to ashes, but in the blink of an eye, my vision went black and I didn't know anything. By the time I realized what was happening, I had already merged with this flaming King Kong, and I didn't know what was going on." "That's because your Majesty has cleared away the demonic energy in the Flame Diamond Soul Stone. The Flame Diamond has recovered. And because the Soul Stone is stained with the blood of His Majesty's spirit body, the recovered Flame King Kong will directly merge with your Majesty in the moment of crisis. I didn't expect that your Majesty would have such an opportunity. This Flame King Kong will generally only be fused with beings above the high-level pastoralists, but when you fused, you were only a junior pastoralist. This is God's will, and your Majesty is the one chosen by God to be able to do so. The person who can revitalize our spiritual world," Mulao said with great certainty. Hearing what Mr. Mu said, Xiaopinggan also felt that this matter was a bit unbelievable but logical. Everything was so wonderful. "By the way, your Majesty, how much soul power do you have now?" Hearing Mr. Mu's question, Xiaopinggan remembered to check his soul power. He had killed so many nightmare insects and puppet corpses last night, and he had absorbed so much soul power that Xiaopinggan didn't even know how much. After this inspection, Xiaopinggan discovered that at some point, his soul power had condensed into a golden ball on the chest of his spirit body, a ball of light, golden, like a ball on his chest. The little sun. The ball of light was slowly rotating on the chest, emitting a surging soul power aura. Compared with before, it was as high as in the sky or on the ground. Xiaopingyan was stunned for a moment, then looked at Mr. Mu. Mr. Mu, all the soul power in my body is now condensed into a golden ball of light on my chest. What's going on? When Mr. Mu heard Xiaopingyan's words, he didn't say anything. He just stretched out his hand and put it against Xiaopingyan's chest. He closed his eyes and seemed to be feeling. After a while, he opened his eyes and said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, at this moment you have already advanced to the level of intermediate pastoral, and His Majesty's soul power is very strong, surpassing many ordinary intermediate pastoralists. In the future, if Your Majesty wants to advance to senior pastoral, the path he will take will be easier. Finally advance to the intermediate pastoral level." Thinking that advanced intermediate pastoralists could learn and master the new pastoral skills again, Xiaopingyan suddenly became excited. "Then can I learn new skills now?" "Yes, Your Majesty can now learn the skills of a new shepherd. If Your Majesty wants to learn, please come with me." After the two chatted for a few words, Mu Lao turned around and took Xiaopingyan towards the fortress. After returning to the fortress, Mu Lao took Xiaopingyan directly to the Muling Hall. On the second floor of the pastoral hall, Xiaopingyan saw 3 black stone tablets again. On those 3 black stone tablets, one stone tablet said Spirit Shield Technique, which is a secret method of using soul power to form a shield to protect oneself. In the spirit world, Spirit Shield Technique can form a shield formed by soul power deep in the consciousness and brain. Barriers and shields ensure that one's consciousness and brain are not invaded. This spiritual shield technique can also be used in the real world. It is a secret technique to protect the soul. On the second stone tablet, there is written the elementary transformation technique. The transformation technique can only be cast in the spiritual world. This secret method is a bit like dreaming and summoning. Whatever you think in your head, as soon as the thought moves, the thought power can be formed in the spiritual world. When Xiaopingyan was attacked by those nightmare insect monsters before, the method used by those nightmare insect monsters to attack Xiaopingyan was the magic of transformation. Those nightmare insect monsters were thinking about swords, guns, and arrows in their heads. Those swords, guns, and arrows, the arrow appeared. Of course, not everything can be manifested by this basic transformation technique. The transformation technique cannot manifest any living objects. The elementary transformation technique can only manifest some ordinary weapons and tools in the spiritual world. Able to control the weather in a small area. On the third stone tablet is the flying technique of the spiritual world. Finally, he could fly. Seeing the flying technique, Xiaopingyan himself let out a long breath. Putting his hand on the stone tablet, Xiaopingyan easily learned these 3 secret techniques. Later, Mr. Mu took Xiaopingyan to the Holy Soul Palace. Mr. Mu said that intermediate shepherds can learn a secret technique in the Holy Soul Palace that is even weirder and more powerful than the soul refining technique, the technique of clone. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 452. The majestic and solemn Holy Soul Hall was empty, with only Xiaopingyan and Mu Lao standing under the dome of the hall. A golden stone tablet emerged from the ground of the main hall, right in front of the two of them. On the golden stone tablet, there were 4 words: the art of cloning. The groove of a palm is just below those 4 words. To be honest, when Xiaopingyan saw such a secret method, he was not only excited, but also shocked, because he had no idea that such a secret method existed in the spiritual world. Xiaopingyan had never heard of this secret method. "Mr. Mu, what kind of clone can I have after learning this secret method? Isn't this spiritual body of mine a clone?" Xiaopingyan did not put his palm in the groove of the stone tablet in a hurry, but frowned slightly. Question. "Your Majesty, the spiritual body and the clone are not the same thing. In the worldview of the spiritual world, everything in the material world is just an extension of the spiritual world, including your body in the material world. That body is just a spiritual body walking in the material world. The tool is the raft for the spirit body to travel through different stars and worlds, and it is also the armor and clothes of the spirit body. The reason why this secret method of avatar is placed in the Holy Soul Hall is because it is the high-level use of the spirit body and soul power. After mastering this secret method, Your Majesty, you can have more tools and bodies to walk in different worlds. After hearing what Mr. Mu said, two words came to Xiaopingan's mind: seize the body. This gave Xiaopingan a sudden thought in his heart. According to the spirit world's worldview, the spirit body is the dominant and fundamental body, while the body is just the body and clothes. Since it is the body and clothes, it can naturally be changed frequently. You mean, after I learn such a secret method, I can snatch other people's bodies for my own use? If this secret method is the same as seizing a body, Xiaopingan is somewhat resistant. The secret method has no good or evil. This is the law and law. However, people have good and evil qualities, and it is difficult for Xiaopingan to accept such a thing as taking away the body. Mu Lao looked at Xiaopingan with deep eyes. Your Majesty, since ancient times, people in the spiritual world who have mastered this secret method may also rob other people's bodies as you mentioned, but after all, they are a very small number. Seizing the body will face extremely serious consequences, ranging from encountering backlash, becoming insane and going completely crazy, to being punished by heaven, with 5 thunders striking the top, destroying both body and soul. We master this secret method of avatar, and we all follow a rule passed down from ancient times. The precepts and laws came from, that is, not to plunder the bodies of living beings. If it doesn't plunder the bodies of other living beings, how can this secret method possess a body in the material world? If a person dies in his sleep, his body left in the material world is an ownerless thing and will soon turn into dust. According to the laws of the spiritual world, the ownerless body can be used by me and become our clone. Ah, Mr. Mu, are you saying that this secret technique occupies the body of a dead person? Yes, as long as that person dies in his sleep, and the death time does not exceed 6 hours, we can become the masters of that body again, Mr. Mu explained, with deep memories in his eyes. In fact, the earliest time of death is in the soul. In the world, this avatar technique is just a means for people in the spiritual world to experience different material worlds. We travel in different worlds through different avatars, experience the splendor of different worlds, and enrich our life experience. This secret method is actually not half of it. Evil meaning. Xiaopingan suddenly grasped some key information from Mu Lao's words, which shocked him. Mr. Mu, you said that this secret method allows us to travel through different material worlds through the spiritual world. That is to say, isn't this secret technique limited to the world where my body is? Of course, if this secret method is only limited to one world, why do you need different clones? Mr. Mu nodded. After learning this secret method, as long as your spirit body comes to different places in the spiritual world, you can use it in different places in the spiritual world. Find your clone in the material world corresponding to the world and create a brand new life experience. Xiaopingan was stunned for a moment. If this was the case, wouldn't it mean that he was in the spiritual world corresponding to the earth at the moment, so he could use this secret method of avatar to find the avatar on the earth, return to the earth, and return to the Great Yan Republic? I can see Xiaoning again, as well as Lao Tu, Mo Yanshao, and the others. The space passage between the earth and the Yuankai world is closed, but the connection to the spiritual world always exists. This secret method of avatar is the Trojan horse and backdoor for the spiritual world to enter the material world. Xiaopingan suddenly became excited and felt his little heart beating violently, because many possibilities came to his mind at once, which made his head a little confused. Xiaopingan took a deep breath, suppressed his inner excitement, and asked, Mr. Mu, I am now a summoner in the 6 Yang realm, so if I have a clone in the material world, will that clone also be a 6 Yang realm? a summoner in the realm. Mulao smiled wisely, and then asked, Your Majesty, do you think the summoner's secret mandala is attached to our spiritual body, or is it attached to our physical body? Xiaoping'an was stunned. This was the simplest question, but it was probably a question that many summoners would never think of in their lifetime. Which body of a person is the secret mandala attached to? Xiaoping'an thought for a while and said with some uncertainty, I think it should be the body, right? If it is the body, then the organs, tissues, and cells of the body can accommodate the size of the secret mandala, create a world in the body, and summon thousands of troops. If it is the body, why can the summons be summoned? An autopsy on the whole body of a master can't find any trace of the existence of the secret mandala. Why is it that some summoners are disabled, missing many body organs, and even have their hearts replaced, but it doesn't affect their ability to perform the secret summoning method? Mulao's question immediately stopped Xiaoping'an. If the summoner's secret mandala is attached to our spirit body, then why can't I cast the summoning technique now? Xiaoping'an also asked his own question. Because although the secret mandala is attached to our spiritual body, it must rely on the power of the physical body and the material world to manifest. Xiaoping'an's heart trembled. So. Mulao smiled slightly. So, if your Majesty is the summoner of the Six Yang realm at this moment, then His Majesty's clone is naturally the summoner of the Six Yang realm. It is just that His Majesty's spirit body completed the secret mandala with the help of different bodies and tools. It's just a manifestation in the material world, but the secret method of clones also has its limitations. What limitations? Your Majesty's spiritual body is 100% consistent with His Majesty's body in the material world. This fit allows His Majesty's body to have 100% potential in the material world, and the performance of various physical qualities is also top-notch. If it is a clone, the degree of compatibility between the spirit body and the clone cannot be as high as the original body. Depending on the degree of compatibility, the physical quality of the physical clone in the material world will be high or low. If the degree of compatibility is low, the physical quality can only be used as the spirit body. Less than 50% of the quality, the highest degree of compatibility between the spirit body and the body of the clone can reach about 90%, and it cannot be perfect, which is also a flaw of the secret method of clone. Will this compatibility affect the release of the secret method? No, it will only affect the physical quality. Not every body can fully display the potential of the spiritual body. That's okay. Xiaoping'an let out a long breath, took a step forward, and placed his hand directly on the groove of the palm of the golden stone tablet. In an instant, all the information about the secret method of the clone poured into Xiaoping'an's body. The consciousness merged with Xiaoping'an's spiritual body. In just a moment, Xiaoping'an mastered the secret method of clone. After learning the secret technique, Xiaoping'an retracted his hand, and the golden stone tablet slowly sank into the ground. Xiaoping'an's eyes flashed, and his heart was eager to try. Your Majesty, do you want to try the art of clones? Asked Mr. Mu. Xiaoping'an nodded. Your Majesty has advanced to the Six Yang realm. There will be big changes in the secret mandala. There will be an independent spiritual world temple. In the future, if your Majesty wants to enter this spiritual world and this fortress, you can actually do it in your own spiritual world temple. Got it? How to complete it? Are there many empty high platforms in the square in His Majesty's spiritual world temple? Xiaoping'an was shocked. Yes. So, as long as His Majesty enters and exits an arch passage in the spirit world, the projection of the same arch passage will be recorded and appear on the high platform of the square of the spirit world temple. In the future, your Majesty will be able to quickly enter and exit different spiritual realms in His secret mandala. Boundary. So that's it. Xiaoping'an patted his forehead. He finally understood why the square of his spiritual world temple was empty. It turned out that the high platforms in the square were reserved for him by the spiritual world temple to enter and exit different spiritual worlds. The space passage means that even if he leaves the immortal city in the future, he can easily return to the different spiritual worlds he has entered. Just a few minutes later, Xiaopinggan passed through the golden arch in the fortress and returned to the spiritual world of the immortal city. Then he passed through his own golden arch from the spiritual world of the immortal city and returned to his own spiritual world. Temple. If everything was as what Mr. Mu said, when he came back this time, on a high platform in the square of the spiritual world temple, there was a golden arch. The golden arch was exactly the same as the arch he used to enter the spiritual world of the earth. The various patterns and stars on it are exactly the same, but they are just smaller in size. This change greatly excited Xiaopinggan. Xiaopinggan immediately left the secret mandala. Xiaopinggan in the secret room suddenly opened his eyes. If you want to use the art of clones in the spiritual world, there are conditions. The body of the deity in the material world must be taken care of first. The secret method of the clone art must be used to let the body of the deity enter the realm of fetal breath and divine silence. In the process, a powerful soul power guarding barrier is left around the body of the deity to prevent the deity's body from being taken away by other spirits or encountering other accidents, so that the spirit body can enter other bodies in the spiritual world and create clones. Xiaopingyan was about to place a barrier around his body when suddenly, a banging knock on the door and a voice penetrated the door outside the secret room and sounded in the secret room. "Brother Long, can I live here?" This voice was inexplicably familiar. It was Mengziki. Xiaopingyan frowned slightly. Why is he here? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 453. Brother Long is here. I am Mengziki. Bang bang bang. Mengziki's voice was blessed with divine power and penetrated directly through the formation outside the courtyard, echoing throughout the courtyard and the secret room. Hearing Mengziki calling outside the door, Xiaopingyan could only temporarily put aside the practice of the clone technique, spread out and cross-legged and got off the stone bed, came to the outside of the secret room, crossed the yard, and opened the door. Mengziki was standing outside the door. Mengziki was wearing a blue mage robe and looked very smart. When he saw Xiaopingyan appeared, Mengziki was surprised and had an eager smile on his face. Ha ha ha, Brother Long, you are indeed here. It's not easy to find you now. Brother Meng, why did you come to the immortal city? Xiaopingyan asked curiously. Mengziki spread his hands and glanced at the door again. Ha ha, Brother Long won't let me stand here. If Brother Long is having a tryst with a beautiful woman, then I'm here at the wrong time. I'll come to visit another day. Brother Long. If so, I'm the only one here. Brother Meng, please come in. Xiaopingyan laughed, welcomed Mengziki in, and then closed the door. As soon as Mengziki entered the door, his eyes darted around. When he saw everything in the yard was hazy and seemed real and illusory, he couldn't help laughing. Brother Long, this yard should be protected by a formation disc. I felt this when I was outside just now. The atmosphere in the yard is unpredictable, it's different from ordinary yards. It made Brother Meng laugh. There is a formation disc in the yard. I usually live alone in this yard. This undead city is not peaceful. There were big insects flying into the city 2 days ago. To be safe, I got one. The formation disc protects the courtyard, Xiaopingyan said, reaching out his hand in the void in the courtyard, and the entire courtyard suddenly returned to normal. There was no longer that hazy illusion, and the formation disc was temporarily sealed. Xiaopingyan directly took Mengziki to the pavilion in the courtyard, sat down in the pavilion, then waved his hand, took out the drinks, preserved fruits, peanuts, dried meat, and other food that had been prepared from the space equipment, and spread them on the table. Guests can be entertained. For summoners, it is convenient to have a spatial warehouse. Of course, Some summoners will even summon a few maids and servants to come out to work at this time, which makes them look more pompous. The best ones can even summon a few beauties, but those characters Xiaoping'an can't be summoned yet, so that's all. The house is humble and shabby, there is nothing to entertain, brother Meng, don't be offended. You're welcome, it's not easy to find you now, Meng Ziqi smiled, without noticing anyone else. He reached out and picked up a few peanuts with chopsticks, threw them into his mouth, and started eating them. A few days ago I arrived at the Immortal City. After asking about it, I found out that Brother Long is very popular and famous in the Immortal City. I haven't seen him for the past few days. I didn't expect that Brother Long has become the sole master of the Wanshen sect in the Soul Weapon Hall of the Immortal City. I'm very busy in the Director's Hall every day, helping people refine soul weapons, which is really enviable. What's there to envy? It's just a living thing, Xiaoping'an smiled modestly. I didn't expect Brother Meng to come to me. Did Senior Sticks let Brother Meng regain his freedom so quickly? Meng Ziqi sighed. Senior Ming he is a man of his word, and thanks to Brother Long, after Senior Ming he obtained the fragments of the artifact in the Land of God's Fall last time. He removed the artifact from me as soon as he returned to Wolong Island. The soul-stealing goo restored my freedom, but it didn't make things difficult for me. Didn't there be a big change in the past few days? The entire world of god-killing insects was alarmed, and the island was in chaos. Many insects went crazy, and everyone was crazy. I don't know what it means to say that a real Saint Master is born. By the way, I heard that joining the Wanshen sect can fuse the Saint Master World Pearl. I wonder how Brother Long's Saint Master World Pearl has been fused. Meng Ziqi looked at it. Xiaoping'an's eyes flashed with concern. Brother Long's talent is incomparable to mine, there must be something to gain. Xiaoping'an shook his head with a look of shame. Forget it, I don't know what happened to the Holy Master World Pearl. It's so fused that I don't have any understanding at all. It seems I have to wait until later to slowly understand it. The secrets are gradually merging, and I hope I can gain something. By the way, I don't know why Brother Meng came to the Immortal City this time. The Immortal City is not as good as before, it is a bit dangerous, and many people who were in the city before have left. Meng Ziqi smiled sheepishly. Brother Long, isn't he a soul master? Ever since I learned about Brother Long's abilities last time, I have always had an idea in my mind, and wanted to ask Brother Long for a favor. To be honest, I have been until there is no Horcrux for self-defense right now, and the world of the god-killing insects is in chaos right now, so I just want to come to Brother Long and ask him to help me refine a Horcrux for self-defense, and please don't refuse. Brother Meng wants to refine a Horcrux. If you want to refine a Horcrux, you need to separate the soul. I wonder if Brother Meng is ready. Before I met Senior Sticks, I had been cultivating my soul for several years and had taken a lot of soul-strengthening pills. I am ready. Oh, Brother Meng is already prepared. Meng Ziqi glanced at Xiaoping'an and suddenly laughed. Brother Long, don't worry, I also know the rules of the Soul Master. This time I came to Brother Long to help him refine the soul weapon, and I can't let Brother Long worry about it. I have been working in vain. This is a world bead that I have treasured before that can summon the best beauties. Even if it is a little bit of my heart, as Brother Long, I should have fused 2 such world beads long ago. Meng Ziqi said, and with a move of his hand, he took out a brocade box, opened it, placed it on the table, and pushed it in front of Xiaoping'an. Beauty is a special person summoned by the summoner. In terms of scarcity, it is more difficult than summoning a giant. Xiaoping'an looked at the world bead in the box. The world bead was 2-color, with a peach-like red light in the blue. The 3 small characters Wang Zheijun among the world beads. Holy shit, it's actually Wang Zheijun. Xiaoping'an's eyes lit up. Meng Ziqi quietly looked at Xiaoping'an's expression. When he saw Xiaoping'an's eyes shining, he couldn't help but said, this beauty world bead does not have the divine mind crystal to cooperate with each other. Whether it can be fused depends on luck, but the world bead summoned by this world bead, there are thousands of beauties with thousands of faces, and they are the most generous, intelligent, and insightful. They can be said to be the best in the world of beauties. I wonder if Brother Long is satisfied? Ha ha ha, Brother Meng, you're too polite. You're too polite. Are we all friends? Why are you so polite? It makes me feel embarrassed. He collected it and put it in his spatial warehouse. I wonder what kind of Horcrux Brother Meng wants to refine. I just want to refine a Horcrux sword, Mengziki said, and directly took out an extremely domineering two-handed sword. Brother Long, can you see it? Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 454. Xiaopinggan picked up Mengziki's two-handed sword weapon and looked at it. This two-handed sword was good, cutting iron like clay. It was blessed with 4 effects of sharpness, armor breaking, freezing, and solidity. Among the summoner's magic weapons, belongs to fine quality. Brother Meng's magic weapon is pretty good. It can be refined and upgraded into a soul weapon. Then I'm relieved. Mengziki put away the magic weapon, looked at Xiaopinggan, pondered for a moment, and looked at Xiaopinggan with expectant eyes. Brother Long, don't blame me for being impatient. I want to ask Brother Long, when can I refining the Horcrux for me? You can do it now, Xiaopinggan said directly. Don't. Mengziki quickly waved his hand and refused with a serious face. Brother Long, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not that anxious. I know that Brother Long just came back from the Horcrux Hall today. These days must be hard and exhausting. I have been busy refining soul weapons these days. No matter how anxious I am, I can't add fuel to Brother Long's fire at this time and prevent him from resting. Brother Long, can you promise to refine it for me? The Horcrux has already given me face, how can I not know what is good or bad? Brother Long, do you think this will work? Brother Long will have a good rest at home today. I will live in the Galaxy Manor in the Immortal City for the past 2 days, waiting for Brother Long. After you have rested and recovered in the past 2 days, how about you come to Galaxy Manor to find me sometime and help me refine the Horcrux? Well, I'll just rest and recover. Thank you Brother Meng for your understanding, Xiaopinggan followed suit and said with a smile. It would be a bit strange if he was in a hurry to help Mengziki refine the Horcrux, because logically speaking, his consumption in the past few days is definitely not small. Oh, it would be great if Brother Renzu was here. The 3 of us could reunite here. It's a pity. The experience in the land of God's fall made me scared. In this world of God-killing insects, I don't have the strength. Even the summoners who can reach the nether realm according to the current situation have a thin life and can only become other people's pawns. Mengziki shook his head and sighed, then poured wine for himself and Xiaopinggan, picked up the wine glass. This glass drink, let's celebrate that we can still return from the land of God's fall and survive the catastrophe. Brother Renzu, it's really a pity. I didn't expect to fall into the land of the gods. Xiaopinggan also shook his head and sighed, clinked glasses with Mengziki and drank. This second glass of wine is for Brother Long. Brother Long's character is really admirable. If Brother Long hadn't calmly handed it over to Senior Styx after getting the artifact fragments, I might not be able to regain my freedom at this moment. So, this glass of wine is for Brother Long. Mengziki's attitude was sincere, and he kept saying one thing after another, which made him feel comfortable even if he stopped. Excuse me. I don't have the fragment of the artifact in my hands. I may not be able to keep it if I keep it, so it's best to give it to Senior Styx. It saves a lot of trouble. Ha ha ha, Brother Long is really free and easy. After all, Brother Long is unique. With the ability of a Soul Master, it will be easy for him to advance to Taiji in the future. How can it be so easy? This 10,000 God sect doesn't support idle people. I eat people's soft-spoken words and short-handed others. I don't know how busy I will be in the future. I can only say that I hope so. By the way, I don't know how Brother Meng got the ability to refine soul weapons. After I leave the god-killing insect realm, I will try my luck. Maybe I can be like Brother Long and have another job in the future. Ability. It would be a long story to talk about how I obtained this refining soul weapon. Xiaopingan made up some nonsense and made up an experience of entering a certain void secret realm on a certain day of a certain year and a certain day to be passed down. Mengziki's eyes lit up and he was amazed. The two of them chatted and talked nonsense, while eating and drinking. Before they knew it, an hour had passed, and both of them seemed to be enjoying themselves. Mengziki then politely left, and Xiaopingan sent Mengziki to the door. Brother Long, stop, I will be waiting for Brother Long at Galaxy Manor these days. When he walked out of the door, Mengziki turned to Xiaopingan and said with a smile. Okay, after I have a day off, I will come to Galaxy Manor to visit Brother Meng in the next 2 days. Xiaopingan stood at the door and watched Mengziki walk out of the alley. Then he turned and returned to the yard. Xiaopingan, who returned to the yard, pointed at Mengziki, the lucky boy who had been teasing the little luminous fish in the yard. In a flash, he chased Mengziki away. I wonder if the increase in soul power was too rapid this time, which made Xiaopingan's perception advance unknowingly. He was suddenly able to perceive many hidden and subtle details that were usually difficult to detect. Although everything was normal when I saw Mengziki this time, Mengziki was gentle and polite in his actions and words, and he was considerate of himself, just like old friends meeting each other. Xiaopingan always felt something was wrong in his heart. When he was chatting with Mengziki and bragging, he actually felt that secretly vigilant. Especially when Mengziki talked about Renzu, although Mengziki's expression and tone were a little sad, as if he was missing an old friend, Xiaopingan felt that there was no sadness in Mengziki's heart, everything was like an exquisite performance. When Mengziki asked about his soul refining method and obtained the artifact fragments, he acted very openly. At most, he was just envious, but Xiaopingan felt that Mengziki's heart was full of jealousy and unwillingness. Xiaopingan returned to the pavilion, drinking wine and eating dried fruits, but his mind had already left with Mengziki along with the god of fortune. Mengziki had no idea that a lucky boy was following him. After leaving Xiaopingan's courtyard, Mengziki flew directly towards the southwest of the Immortal City, and arrived at Galaxy Manor in a short time. Galaxy Manor is a high-end hotel in the Immortal City. Galaxy Manor is built in a huge natural underground cave in the Immortal City. There is an underground waterfall in the cave, and there are independent courtyards everywhere. All courtyards are protected by formations. There are also summoned guards patrolling the place. It is very quiet and safe. The summoners who can live here are all the summoners who are not short of money. When Mengziki came to Galaxy Manor, he directly entered a courtyard where he lived alone. Mengziki returned to the yard without contacting anyone. He just took out the book and read it in his room, looking like he was patiently waiting for Xiaopingan to come. This was the case for 2 or 3 hours in a row, quietly. Read a book. This made Xiaopingan a little surprised. Could it be that he was paranoid? Seeing that nothing was found there, Xiaopingan asked the god of fortune to stare at Mengziki while he returned to the underground secret room. The clone on the earth cannot be made in 3 or 2 days. It may take a long time to find a suitable clone, and the process cannot be interrupted. And he will soon refine the Horcrux for Mengziki. This time is not enough. More or less, Xiaopingan simply merged the world beads in the secret room. Xiaopingan himself was a little unsure about the world pearl that could summon Wang Zhejian, so he planned to let it go first. Of course Xiaopingan is very clear about Wang Zhejian's experience, but Xiaopingan still can't figure out how to integrate this world pearl. Is it possible that he wants to become Wang Zhejian in the world pearl? That was too much. Xiaopinggan really couldn't accept it. He felt that it would be impossible for a male summoner who wanted to summon beauties to play the role of beauties in this world bead that summoned the four beauties. He must use other methods to integrate it and take on the roles of other beauties. And so what if he becomes Wang Zhejian? It's too awkward. Because he was not sure, Xiaopinggan put this world bead aside first. Fortunately, Xiaopinggan had 3 other world beads that he could fuse with first. The first boundary bead that Xiaopinggan took out was the dead soldier's summoning boundary bead. There were 2 small characters on this boundary bead, Tianheng. Tianheng embodies another kind of spirit of the Chinese aristocracy. The story of Tianheng and his 500 dead men is so bloody and cruel that it is saddening. Tianheng's words before his death are righteousness carries heaven, trustworthiness covers earth, life is a legacy of ambition. It is really heart-wrenching. After he committed suicide, all 500 of his dead men followed his suicide deeds, and his reputation has been passed down through the ages, inspiring countless heroes. When Xiaopinggan was studying in school, he personally went to Tianheng Island to pay homage to Tianheng and his 500 martyrs during the holidays. It is a pity that Tianheng's tomb, which was originally located at the foot of Shaoyang Mountain, was such an important cultural relic, but was later demolished and built into a power plant. It is really sad. After dripping with blood, Xiaopinggan was wrapped in a blood-colored cocoon of light in just a short time. Xiaopinggan opened his eyes. In front of him, there were waves and a strong sea breeze. There was a rocky beach facing the sea. The scenery here was inexplicably familiar. It was Tianheng Island. A hoarse voice appeared behind him. "General, the envoy from the King of Han has arrived." Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 455. Early the next morning, Xiaopinggan came to Galaxy Manor in high spirits. The entrance of Galaxy Manor is at the entrance of the underground cave. The entrance is magnificent. When you enter the cave, you can see a purple waterfall dyed by the light of amethyst flowing down from the top of the cave and into the underground river of the cave. Small courtyards are dotted all over the cave. This is one of the most unique places in the Immortal City. After Xiaopinggan expressed his intention to come, an armored guard was summoned and personally took Xiaopinggan outside the courtyard where Mengziki lived and knocked on the door for Xiaopinggan. Yesterday, Mengziki spent the entire day reading, resting, and meditating in his small courtyard without any abnormality. But less than half a minute later, the door of the small courtyard opened, and Mengziki's face appeared from behind the door. When he saw Xiaopinggan, he looked surprised. "Brother Long, it's you, you're here so soon." "Haha, I took one day off yesterday, and I feel much better today." For a soul master, taking 1 or 2 days off has about the same effect as taking 10 days and 8 days off. "Please come in, please come in." Mengziki quickly welcomed Xiaopinggan into the courtyard. Xiaopinggan's role today is completely reversed from Mengziki's role yesterday. The small courtyard of the Galaxy Manor is also protected by formation discs and formations. The courtyard is misty as if there is heavy fog, and it is very troublesome for ordinary summoners to break in. The array in this courtyard is just a 5-element smoke lock array. It can't be compared with the array in Brother Long's courtyard. It can barely trap people and give early warning. Even if you encounter an expert, it can be destroyed in minutes, crossing the courtyard. Mengziki and Xiaopinggan spoke politely, and then led Xiaopinggan across the yard and directly to the living room. Mengziki waved his hand and summoned several beautiful maids to start making tea for the two of them. Brother Meng really knows how to enjoy it. Compared with Brother Meng, the entertainment I entertained Brother Meng yesterday was quite shabby. Mengziki laughed loudly. "We summoners are sometimes too depressed alone. Although summoned characters such as maids, piano players, and cooks cannot participate in battles, they make our lives comfortable and satisfying. We have Zhang and Qi such world beads. Brother Long should find an opportunity to fuse a few of them." Brother Long will find that these world pearls are quite interesting. By the way, has the beauty world pearl been fused, Brother Long? The beauty realm pearl has not yet been fused, so I am going to prepare it to avoid wasting it if the fusion fails in a hurry. After drinking a pot of tea and chatting for a while, Xiaopingan got straight to the point and said, Brother Meng, it's almost time. Let's go to the secret room and start refining the Horcrux. This refining of the Horcrux requires at least 1 or 2 daytime. Okay, since Brother Long is ready, I won't refuse. Brother Long, please. Mengziki stood up, made an invitation gesture, took Xiaopingan directly into the secret room, and sat cross-legged opposite each other on the futon. Sit. Refining the Horcrux requires dividing the soul. This process requires Brother Meng's dedicated cooperation with me. The process of dividing the soul may be a bit tiring for Brother Meng, but before the Horcrux is completely refined, Brother Meng, please persist and not give up halfway. And you can't disturb me, Xiaopingan explained to Mengziki with a serious face the issues that Mengziki needed to pay attention to during the process of refining the soul weapon. Mengziki nodded repeatedly and expressed his willingness to cooperate with a serious look on his face. Okay, Brother Meng can take out that long sword. Mengziki was very obedient. After Xiaopingan finished speaking, he took out the long sword, the magical weapon from yesterday, and placed it flat on his knees. Brother Meng, first concentrate on the position between the eyebrows. Before dividing the soul, I want to check the strength of Brother Meng's soul and whether it can separate the soul, Xiaopingan said, and he had already taken out his soul according to the procedure. The top quality soul fixing pearl was held in his hand and slowly approached Mengziki's eyebrows. As soon as the soul fixing pearl was taken out, the entire secret room was bathed in a blue halo, solemn and sacred, and the ritual sense of refining a soul weapon suddenly came out. Seeing this soul fixing pearl, Mengziki's lowered eyes flashed with a hint of greed and surprise, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. It was fleeting, but he hid it well. On the surface, he still as if he was seriously obeying Xiaopingan's command. The faint blue brilliance of the soul-fixing pearl dyed Mengziki's face with his head slightly lowered into a faint blue, and it suddenly changed unexpectedly. Xiaopingan looked at Mengziki with slightly squinted eyes, also with a serious face. Under the blue light of the soul-fixing pearl, Xiaopingan stretched out a finger and gently pressed it between Mengziki's eyebrows. As he stood up, a faint golden thread between Mengziki's brows seemed to have been pulled out by Xiaopingan and wrapped around Xiaopingan's fingers. Mengziki also felt that his brain was floating for a moment, and his whole person had a kind of drifting feeling. It feels like heaven, very strange. Brother Long, how about it? My soul should be enough, Mengziki asked. Brother Meng's soul is extremely strong and can be divided into souls to refine Horcruxes, Xiaopingan said. Very good. Brother Meng, please pay attention. We are officially starting now. Please stay calm, don't move, and listen to my instructions. I am going to start dividing souls for Brother Meng. Good. Xiaopingan said, and with a wave of his hand, the top-quality soul-fixing pearl was suspended above the two people's heads. The long sword that Mengziki placed on his knees slowly floated up in the brilliance of the soul-fixing pearl, hanging between the two of them. Refining the Horcrux requires some blood from Brother Meng's eyebrows. Xiaopingan said, pointing towards the guy's eyebrows with one hand, and a thumb-sized mass of blood was drawn from Mengziki's eyebrows. Come out, floating in the void, blooming with red light. Brother Meng touched the sword body with both hands and surrounded the sword with divine power. Xiaopingan continued to order. Mengziki did as he was told, and under the infusion of his divine power, the long sword suddenly emitted a brilliant light. Brother Meng, stay focused and calm. Don't act rashly. I'm going to start dividing my soul and merging my blood. Xiaopingan said, changing the complicated hand seals with his hands, using the index finger of his right hand to touch Mengziki's eyebrows again. There was a free golden light in it, like the golden thread being pulled out of a ball of silk thread, and it began to wrap around Xiaoping'an's fingers, wrapping more and more around it. This process seemed very tiring for Xiaoping'an. Xiaoping'an was so focused that his forehead was covered with sweat unknowingly, but he didn't know it. After half an hour, the golden threads wrapped around Xiaoping'an's fingers had turned into a ball of golden light. His hands, feet, and head stretched out from the golden light, gradually turning into Mengziqi's appearance. Mengziqi has been very cooperative during this process, but at the same time, he also opened his eyes wide and carefully observed Xiaoping'an's every movement and step, with occasional strange flashes of color in his eyes. Unify the divine blood, cast the soul and condense the method, unite the human and the weapon, nourish the weapon with the spirit. Xiaoping'an shouted, and finally the ball of golden light on his hand merged with the ball of blood floating in the air before. The mass of blood suddenly bloomed with an even more dazzling golden light. Xiaoping'an made a series of complicated hand seals, and the flash of blood fell on the long sword. The long sword suddenly seemed to come alive. Dragon scales appeared on the sword body, and the long sword began to transform into a dragon, bringing bursts of energy to the entire secret room. Chill. Brother Meng, pay attention, hold Yu and Xiaoyi, open up your divine power, and prepare to receive the Horcrux. It will take another day. I will help Brother Meng. The snow-white cocoon of light gradually enveloped Mengziqi and the Horcrux sword. Xiaoping'an closed his eyes and focused his whole body on helping Mengziqi condense the soul weapon. From time to time, he put his handprints one by one into the soul-fixing pearls and the light cocoon above the two people. Under Xiaoping'an's manipulation, the light cocoon continued to it changes in various colors and is extremely beautiful. After finishing all this, Xiaoping'an seemed to be very tired. He sat cross-legged outside Mengziqi's light cocoon and focused on the soul-fixing pearl. The soul-fixing pearl kept shining blue light on the two of them. The entire secret room suddenly fell into absolute silence. Half a day later, when the Horcrux was at its most critical moment, without any warning, a hand suddenly stretched out from Mengziqi's light cocoon, holding a dark and ferocious dagger. In an instant, the dagger almost there was no obstacle, and Xiaoping'an had no time to make any changes. The dagger pierced directly into Xiaoping'an's heart until it had no handle. Xiaoping'an opened his eyes suddenly, and a mouthful of black blood spurted out directly from Xiaoping'an's mouth, eyes, ears, and nostrils. Xiaoping'an screamed and looked at the hand stretched out from the light cocoon with extremely shocked eyes. All the divine power in his body collapsed instantly, and the soul-fixing pearl suddenly fell from the air. Mengziqi, you! Xiaoping'an screamed miserably. Halfway through his words, another mouthful of black blood spurted out, which was extremely sad all of a sudden. Almost at the same time, the hand holding the dagger caught the soul-fixing pearl, and then the other hand, with a ball of electric light, fiercely blasted out of the cocoon of light again, hitting Xiaoping'an's chest with the palm. With a click, Xiaoping'an's sternum and half-body bones were shattered. The swirling electric light even scorched half of Xiaoping'an's body. Within a second, there was no trace of Xiaoping'an's body. With intact skin, Xiaoping'an, who was originally sitting cross-legged, flashed with electric light and flames all over his body, and was sent flying backwards by the palm. He hit the alloy wall of the secret room hard, causing a dent in the wall. Suddenly, the entire secret room was filled with beating flames and electric light, and it was extremely cold. The light cocoon for refining the Horcrux finally shattered. Mengziqi slowly stood up with a devilish smile, looking at Xiaoping'an with a condescending sneer. He held the top-quality soul-fixing pearl in one hand, and that the Horcrux sword has been put away by him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 456. Menu, you should be able to exchange your items for a lot of rare world pearls. I heard that this top quality soul fixing pearl was given to you by that old guy from Styx. Tisk, tisk, that old guy has a weird temper and is cruel to people, but he treats you differently. So enviable. Mengziki, you despicable villain. Xiaopinggan was lying on the ground, spitting out black blood. His skin and face were covered with black lines like tree roots, and the black lines were forming on Xiaopinggan. Ping An's body extended at a terrifying speed. Wherever the black lines touched, Xiaoping An's body began to dry up and become petrified. It was very terrifying, but Xiaoping An was still struggling to stand up. Stop struggling, that dagger is also a Horcrux, and I've also coated it with God-destroying poison. As long as you see blood, your divine power will no longer be able to be used at all, and your body will gradually turn to stone. Back then in the land of God's fall, Enizu was just like you when he died, and the way he struggled was so ridiculous. Mengziki shook his head. Renzu was also killed by you. That assassin who ambushed me, and the method of pretending to be a female disciple of the Black Dragon Gate, were also arranged by you. Xiaopinggan, who fell to the ground, struggled for a long time, but could barely hold on. He raised his upper body and leaned against the wall of the secret room, vomiting blood while staring at Mengziki, and said, "That's right, it seems like you're not that stupid. It's just that your fate in the land of God's fall is too great. I calculated on you twice, but you escaped both times." Mengziki was extremely proud and smiled. "However, don't you think, you will die in my hands in the end? Although this Horcrux sword has not been refined yet, you will no longer be needed in the future. I can slowly raise it myself for a period of time. Already." Having said this, Mengziki shook his head and looked at Xiaopinggan, who fell on the ground with a look of regret. He slowly walked over and raised his hand. A scorching fireball technique had gradually condensed in front of him. The temperature in the secret room suddenly rising, he aimed his hand at Xiaopinggan. The close fireball technique was absolutely fatal to a summoner who had lost the ability to move. It could turn people into ashes in an instant. The fireball was like pointing at others. The muzzle of the gun in the head, to be honest, I can't bear to kill a soul master like this. Why, I have no enmity with you, and I still regard you as a friend." Xiaopingyan shouted desperately and hoarsely. With this excitement, the skin on his body was all numb. It cracked and fell apart, exposing the bones under the skin, which looked extremely terrifying. Mengziki's eyes moved, and a cold smile appeared on his face. "For the sake of your death, it doesn't matter if I tell you, the old weirdo Tian who you call is actually my father. The old guy I went to Styx. There was originally a carefully arranged game around me, but who would have thought that this game would be ruined by you, and you actually let that old guy from Styx get the artifact fragments. Do you think you should die? So that's it? Don't think about delaying time and waiting for some miracle, let's get on the road." Mengziki waved his hand, a fierce look flashed in his eyes, and the scorching fireball fell neatly. In Xiaopinggan's unwilling eyes, the fireball fell on Xiaopinggan's body. Xiaopinggan was instantly reduced to ashes. At the same time, the space warehouse on Xiaopinggan also exploded. Gold coins burst out like a fountain in the secret room. The Horcrux of the 7-star sword whip and the beauty realm pearl that could summon Wang Zhejian also burst out, along with many other things. It burst out and almost filled the entire secret room. "Brother Long, your net worth is quite rich. It's a pity that all these things will be named Meng from now on." Mengziki rubbed his hands, waved his hands, and put away all the things in the secret room in the blink of an eye. And then summoned a stream of water to wash in the secret room, freezing the water into ice cubes, and then put away the ice cubes. In an instant, this murderous secret room was clean, not even Xiaopinggan's ashes were left. Like new. Then, Mengziki took out a mask and put it on his head. In the blink of an eye, the mask turned into Xiaoping's appearance. He took off his clothes neatly, and with a move of his hand, he actually took out a set of Wanshen section. The white mage robe with gold patterns on the sleeves is exactly the same as Xiaoping's. Mengziki, who put on the white mage robe, turned into Xiaoping in the blink of an eye. Then Mengziki waved his hand, and a dragon-slaying assassin was summoned. The figure of the dragon-slaying assassin twisted and turned into Mengziki's appearance. Looking at the assassin, and then at himself, Mengziki laughed loudly, and then walked out of the secret room, letting the assassin's incarnation, Mengziki, send his incarnation of Xiaoping to the door of the small courtyard. "Brother Meng, just bring it here. Please stay. When you come to the Immortal City next time, we will find time to drink again." Mengziki spoke at the door of the small courtyard. His voice changed to Xiaoping's, and he said the assassin he summoned said goodbye to himself in such a warm and friendly manner that others thought it was a good friend saying goodbye. "Okay, I will drink with Brother Long when I come to the Immortal City next time." Mengziki's dragon slaying waved at this moment and called a summoned guard from Galaxy Manor, and asked the guard to directly transform Mengziki's dragon fantasy sent out of Xing Manor. As soon as Mengziki left the Galaxy Manor, he jumped into the air without hesitation and flew towards the outside of the Immortal City at lightning speed. Because the Galaxy Manor was originally located near the edge of the Immortal City, Mengziki flew away from the Immortal City in just a few minutes and came to the underground cave outside. As soon as he flew away from the Immortal City, Mengziki directly used the secret method, covering his figure, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared into a dark and deep underground gap with complex terrain outside the Immortal City. At the same time, the dragon-slaying assassin summoned by Mengziki also left Galaxy Manor and flew away in another direction. After the assassin left the city, he made a circle and came to the underground gap where Mengziki disappeared, and within a few minutes, he met Mengziki in a hidden cave in the underground gap. Mengziki took back the dragon-slaying assassin he summoned, took off the mask on his face, and changed his clothes. Mengziki came back, but the dragon fantasy disappeared. Mengziki continued to fly in the underground gap. After a while, he came to the outside of a secret cave. He looked at the mark outside the cave. When entering the cave, he clapped his hands 3 times and summoned another one. The firefly floated in front of him, and then calmly entered the cave. The strange rocks in the cave were rugged and deeply hidden. After Mengziki entered the cave for a full 100 meters, a ghostly figure emerged from the strange rocks. The figure that emerged from the cave was in his 50s, with slightly white temples, a deep aquiline nose, and sharp and cold eyes. He was wearing the mage robe of the red-clad deacon of the Wanshan section. This person was exactly Order the Deacon. Seeing Deacon Ling, Mengziki showed a smile, and Deacon Ling also showed a smile on his face. "Junior brother, how are you?" Deacon Ling asked directly. "Everything is as brother expected. How could that dragon fantasy escape from my grasp?" Mengziki smiled proudly, then moved his hand and took out Xiaoping's 7-star sword whip soul tool, although there was a slight expression on his face. He was reluctant to give up, but still handed the 7-star sword whip to Deacon Ling. "The Horcrux on that Xuanhuan is really top-notch. I have seen so many Horcruxes, and almost none of them can compare with this one. Senior brother, if you want to use it in the future, you have to be more careful and don't get discovered. Don't worry, I have a way to prevent anyone from recognizing this Horcrux." Ling Deacon licked his lips, his eyes flashed. He took the 7-star sword whip, and gently stroked the sword of the 7-star sword whip with one hand. His eyes were full of admiration. This Horcrux cannot be refined by ordinary soul masters at all. Only top-level Horcrux masters and some of the fine Horcruxes left over from the Mengling divine sect can rival it. By the way, junior brother, have you ever inquired about the relationship between Xuanhuan and Kui Li? I have been chatting with Xuanhuan for a long time in the past 2 days. After all the insinuations, I did not find that Xuanhuan knew Kui Li. Xuanhuan was his true self when he died. He was not pretending to be someone else. I don't know why senior brother insists on this. It's nothing. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Summoners who can enter the world of God-killing insects are not ordinary people. Deacon Ling said sternly, shaking his head slightly. When Kui Li was wanted by me that day, his hand there seems to be a top-notch Horcrux on the battlefield, and this Dragon Huan also has such a thing in his hand. Kui Li seems to have disappeared these days, without a trace. However, as soon as Kui Li disappeared, this Dragon Huan appeared. It's such a coincidence that it's a bit suspicious. Senior brother has been too cautious in the Wanchen sect these years. Maybe, with my status, I can't be cautious, Deacon Ling said with a smile. By the way, I wonder what the master has to say this time. My father said that senior brother has worked really hard in lurking in the Wanchen sect these years. The Horcrux just now is a reward for you, senior brother. My father has prepared the divine spring of the transformation realm. As long as you advance to the transformation level, senior brother, in the world of Yuan Kaiu, you can bathe in the divine spring at any time. At the same time, in the world of Yuan Kaiu, my father has helped my senior brother's family to completely control the Yeli kingdom, so that my senior brother's father has ascended the throne. Ling Deacon looked serious and said, "Please rest assured, Master, I will fulfill my mission." At this moment, the underground situation is turbulent, the insect tide is raging, and the undead city is already unstable. At the same time, the situation on the Pantheon star seems to be getting more and more tense. There are already signs of spatial fusion on the Wanshen star, and the top management of the Wanshen sect is already very anxious. In this case, the hidden point of the Tanja realm divine spring controlled by the Wanshen sect underground in the Immortal Sea will be exposed sooner or later. Once I get the master will be informed of the news. Also, the vision of the birth of the Holy Master has nothing to do with the Wanshen section these days. The top leaders of the Wanshen sect are also secretly investigating, but there is no progress. I know, senior brother, please be more careful. After Mengziki and Deacon Ling had a secret meeting in the cave for a while, Mengziki left the cave from the original path, and Deacon Ling turned into a shadow and disappeared. After leaving the cave, Mengziki didn't stay underground for a moment, and flew towards the undead city like lightning. As soon as he flew out of the underground exit of the Immortal City, Mengziki was stunned. His face almost changed. Long Huan, who had been turned into ashes by him, was actually standing in the air at the underground entrance of the Immortal City, with his back to the blue sky, smiling. She looked at him as if waiting for him to come out. Impossible. Mengziki thought it was because he was dazzled. He rubbed his eyes desperately and found that it was not him who was dazzled. The person standing in the void in front of him was Long Huan. "Who are you? How dare you come here and pretend to be my friend?" Mengziki was stunned for a few seconds, then roared loudly, took out his weapon, and at the same time glanced around to see if there was any ambush around him. It's very strange. At this time, there are always people coming and going at the underground entrance of the Immortal City, and many flying figures can be seen in the sky. But at this moment, there is no one in the surrounding sky, and the sea is as clear as blue. Blue, absolutely clean, with an inexplicable and strange aura. Xiaopingan sighed, "Brother Meng is so scheming, old monster Tianhua is so scheming. Senior Ming He, and the Wanchen sect have all been plotted by your family. I admire you, I admire you." Golden Summoner. Author, Zy Chapter 457. Golden Summoner. Mengziki was confused all of a sudden, and looked at Xiaopingan with his eyes blankly. His mind was like a willow in the strong wind, no longer stable, drifting in the wind. Even his body couldn't help but tremble because of fear and shock. "Stand up. Isn't Long Huan dead? Why are you still standing in front of him? If this person is Long Huan, then who is the person who refined the Horcrux for himself in the secret room and was killed by him? And, more importantly, how could the dragon in front of him know so many secrets? Why is this? Is everything in front of me my hallucination or my own inner demon? All the confusion, fear, and shock in his heart finally turned into a fierce murderous aura. Mengziki stared at Xiaopingan with red eyes and roared, "Pretend to be a ghost, talk nonsense, and die." After that, Mengziki he took out the Horcrux sword that Xiaopingan had just refined for him, and without thinking, he rushed towards Xiaopingan, and struck down hard with his sword. Looking at Mengziki who was suddenly crazy, Xiaopingan showed a mocking smile. As soon as he stretched out his hand, one of his hands turned into a golden palm that covered the sky, and he grabbed Mengziki's head. Mengziki screamed, like an ant facing a giant, and was easily caught by Xiaopingan. "Ah!" Mengziki screamed and suddenly opened his eyes. When he woke up, he found that he was still in the secret room. Long Huan was sitting cross-legged opposite him, and one of Long Huan's fingers was touching his own. Between the eyebrows, the soul in his body was like a ball of golden thread, pulled out by Long Huan and wrapped around Long Huan's hand. Isn't this the scene where Long Huan refined a Horcrux for himself before? Why, it's back again. Could it be that everything just now was a dream, that I was dreaming? Mengziki looked shocked. Looking at Long Huan's face again, he found that there was nothing unusual about Long Huan's face, but his eyes looking at him were unusually cold. It turns out that Brother Meng was planning to wait until the soul weapon was halfway refined, take advantage of my unpreparedness, and then kill me when I was no longer needed, and then pretend that I left the immortal city, so that I would become a member of the 10,000 God sect inexplicably. Missing persons, no one will suspect you. Xiaopingan sighed softly and shook his head slightly. I originally set my heart on the bright moon, but the bright moon shines on the ditch. Starting from the place where the gods fell, Brother Meng has been talking about it 3 times. It's really sad that you wanted to kill me twice. Even if Brother Meng has a father who is in the 9 Suns realm, you can't act so wantonly. Mengziki's instinct was to move and struggle, but as soon as he struggled, he realized that he could no longer move. Xiaopingan's finger pressed between his eyebrows was like a mountain, suppressing him and unable to move. At this moment, his soul was controlled by Xiaopingan. His entire consciousness seemed to be completely separated from his body, and his body no longer obeyed commands at all. Mengziki's face changed drastically, and he still looked confused. He smiled forcefully at Xiaopingan, and forced himself to explain, I just found out that I had a strange dream. Could that dream be caused by Brother Long? Brother Long, don't make such a joke with me, it's just a dream, don't take it seriously, the things in the dream are all delusions. If Brother Long doesn't want to refine the Horcrux for me, then forget it, I will leave the immortal city. Brother Meng is so eloquent, you think you can hide it, do you still think I'm a fool? What does Brother Long mean by this? It's nothing. Whether that dream is true or not, I just need to go to the Deacon Hall and tell Deacon Ling that he is a disciple of old monster Tianhua, and someone will naturally find out. Seeing the determined sneer on Xiaopingan's face, Mengziki suddenly put away his pitiful appearance, showed a ferocious face, and roared, Long Huan, I admit that you are somewhat capable, so what, I will do it this time my father knows about coming to the immortal city. If you dare to touch me, my father will not let you go. Oh, really? Xiaopingan's eyes narrowed, then I'll wait for your father to come to me. You kill me a few times, and I only kill you once. We are even. What do you want to do? Mengziki became frightened. Do you want to know what the real soul refining technique is? Xiaopingan suddenly smiled. Mengziki wanted to struggle, but a strange black flame suddenly appeared from Xiaopingan's finger. The ball of Mengziki's soul power wrapped around Xiaopingan's hand was suddenly ignited by the flame on Xiaopingan's finger, and was ignited. The soul power emitted a rainbow-like light, and like a fuse, it instantly reached the center of Mengziki's eyebrows, igniting the soul in Mengziki's entire body. A soul master who has mastered the true soul refining method kills people when refining soul weapons, especially when he wants to kill people during the soul refining process, just like a doctor holding a scalpel on the operating table facing a patient who has had his chest opened after anesthesia. It's just as easy as setting a person's soul on fire, and that person will die instantly, and his body will become a complete shell. Mengziki's body suddenly stiffened, and all the pores in his body, eyes, ears, mouth, and nose emitted a magnificent rainbow-colored light. Then just 2 seconds later, the light disappeared, and Mengziki's eyes instantly lost all brilliance. His body stopped moving, and then he fell softly. He lost his breathing and heartbeat in an instant, and he couldn't die anymore. The soul was burned out, just like the death of a spiritual body, and it was naturally impossible for Mengziki to live any longer. Then, the space equipment on him suddenly exploded. Xiaopingyan grabbed his soul-fixing pearl, exhaled a long breath, spread his legs and stood up. Mengziki didn't carry many things with him. In addition to the gold coins all over the floor, there were also some pills and bottles and jars. Among other things, there was a box containing the boundary pearl. The most eye-catching one was the hideous black dagger he used to plot against himself. Xiaopingyan picked up the dagger and looked at it. The dagger was also a Horcrux, with powerful sharpness, armor-breaking, and paralysis effects. Mengziki, that piece of trash, also smeared poison on it. This thing is very effective for high-level summoners. They are all deadly weapons, so be sure not to get hurt. Xiaopingyan opened the box containing the boundary bead again, and saw a light green boundary bead in the box. There were only 2 Chinese characters on the boundary bead. Xiaopingyan doesn't know what this means. It is estimated that this world bead is not easy to fuse, so Mengziki carries it. If it were easy to fuse, it would have been fused by Mengziki long ago. Among those bottles and jars, there were some elixirs and some poisons. Just looking at the poisons, one could tell that Mengziki had absolutely evil intentions. Hey, what is this? Just when Xiaopingyan was about to put everything away, among the piles of gold coins on the ground, Xiaopingyan suddenly found a strange thing, which was a bronze triangle. In the middle of the token, there is a small seal character order, and around the order character is a group of auspicious cloud patterns. As soon as the thing is held in his hand, the palm of his hand warms slightly, and Xiaopingyan's mind is filled with thoughts. A picture, that picture is surrounded by towering peaks that stick into the sky like sharp swords, and misty clouds are floating in the middle of those peaks. Xiaopingyan was stunned for a moment, and then the picture in his mind disappeared. He put down the token, picked it up again, and the image in his mind appeared again, and then disappeared in just 2 seconds. This strange token was not a mortal thing, but Xiaopingyan didn't know what the token was for, so he had to put it away first. Afterwards, Xiaopingyan's body, bones and appearance changed, and slowly, he turned into Mengziki's appearance. He took off his own clothes, took off Mengziki's clothes and put them on himself, and then repaired his own clothes. After the release, Xiaopingyan became another Mengziki in just a moment. Ahem, senior brother, it's me, ahem, everything is as senior brother expected, how could that dragon fantasy escape from my grasp, senior brother? Xiaopingyan touched his throat after trying his voice. He adjusted his own voice to be the same as Mengziki's. There was no difference at all. Then he put away Mengziki's body, turned around and left the secret room. The secret room was empty, no one was there anymore. After taking one last look at the secret room, Xiaopingyan turned around, left the secret room directly, and then left Galaxy Manor alone. After a while, Xiaopingyan, who transformed into Mengziki, returned to the courtyard where he lived, put away the Lianji Mazong ice and fire sword formation in the courtyard, took one last reluctant look at the courtyard, sighed, and went directly flying towards the outside of the city. An hour later, Xiaopingan had arrived outside the cave deep in the underground gap where Mengziki and Deacon Ling had met before. When entering the cave, Xiaopingan clapped his hands 3 times outside the cave, summoned a firefly sack to float in front of him, and then entered the cave calmly. After entering the cave for 100 meters, Deacon Ling, who had slightly white temples, a deep aquiline nose, and sharp and cold eyes, finally walked out from the shadow of a pile of strange rocks and asked in a low voice. "Junior brother, was it successful?" Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 458. Everything is as expected by senior brother. That dragon fantasy can't escape from the palm of my hand. It is naturally successful. Xiaopingan smiled proudly. His expression and movements were just like Mengziki's in the dream-making technique. The performance was exactly the same. As he spoke, Xiaopingan moved his hand and took out his 7-star sword whip. He touched the 7-star sword whip with some reluctance, but still handed the 7-star sword whip to Deacon Ling. Seeing the 7-star sword whip, the deacon's eyes suddenly lit up and he grabbed it without hesitation. When Xiaopingan handed over the 7-star sword whip, he held the hilt of the 7-star sword whip in one hand and the blade of the 7-star sword whip in one hand. He held the sword in both hands and handed the 7-star sword whip horizontally. When the deacon took over the 7-star sword whip, he naturally held the sword in both hands and took it over. But Xiaopingan did not let go immediately. Instead, he held the 7-star sword whip and explained to Deacon Ling with a serious look on his face. "The Horcrux on that Xuanhuan is really top-notch. I have seen so many Horcruxes, and almost none of them can compare with this one. Before I came to the Immortal City this time, my father told me personally that senior brother it has been really hard work lurking in the Wanchen sect these years. This Horcrux is a reward for you, senior brother. In addition, my father has prepared the divine spring for the transformation realm. As long as you advance to the transformation realm, senior brother, you can bathe in the divine spring at any time. At the same time in the world of Yuan Kaiu, your father has helped your senior brother's family to completely control the Yeli kingdom, and your senior brother's father has ascended the throne. As for the matter of the divine spring of the Wanchen sect, the master told your senior brother to pay close attention. The current situation in the Immortal City being nervous is the best time." Deacon Ling looked at the 7-star sword whip in front of him and listened to Xiaopingan's words. He completely lost his vigilance and relaxed completely. The man in front of him was his junior brother and the son of his master. The two of them joined forces. If Xuanhuan is killed in a game, is there still a lie? "Junior brother, please tell the master that I have a little idea of the hidden spot of the Tanja realm divine spring controlled by the Wanchen sect underground in the Immortal Sea. When the situation in the Immortal Sea becomes more tense, I will further gain the trust of Director Fu, and I will definitely be able to gain more close to target." Xiaopingan smiled. "That's good." Just after saying this, one of Xiaopingan's hands had already left the 7-star sword whip, making the deacon's greedy eyes focus on the 7-star sword whip and licked his lips. Was about to take the 7-star sword whip, and then, Xiaopingan took action without any warning. A dazzling electric light appeared on Xiaopingan's finger, and Xiaopingan directly summoned the divine thunder. The deacon held the 7-star sword whip in both hands. The 7-star sword whip was a conductive object. Therefore, the moment Xiaopingan summoned the divine thunder had already blasted through the 7-star sword whip on those who were unprepared and could not avoid it. The deacon's order made him unable to react at all. Ling Deacon's whole body was instantly surrounded by a ball of dazzling lightning, half of his clothes were reduced to ashes, and his whole body was instantly paralyzed by the divine thunder. At the same time, a black figure jumped out of Xiaopingan's shadow like a ghost. It was a 7th-level Chen-Seeing assassin. Almost at the moment he jumped out, the Chen-Seeing assassin was already close to the ground, as fast as lightning. At the moment when Deacon's body stiffened, he inserted a dagger into Deacon's chest, stirred it hard, and made Deacon spurt out a mouthful of blood. At the same time as the assassin attacked, Xiaopinggan also had a black and ferocious Horcrux dagger in his hand. This dagger was exactly the one that Mencius had poisoned. As soon as the dagger was in his hand, Xiaopinggan directly put it into his hands. The dagger cut against the blade of the 7-star sword whip. With one strike, Deacon Ling's 2 palms were severed, causing the 2 bloody pieces to fall directly to the ground. Everything happened at the same time in the blink of an eye. In an instant, Deacon Ling's body suffered 3 serious injuries, his hands were broken, and he was poisoned. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. The deacon's eyes were filled with confusion as he spit out a mouthful of blood. The expression was extremely complex, puzzled, shocked, painful, and the anger of being betrayed. Staring at Xiaopinggan, he couldn't help but let out a cry. Roaring, "Ah!" The deacon was quickly retreating. After Xiaopinggan cut off Deacon Ling's hands with one blow, he saw the 7-star sword whip fall away. He put away the dagger in his hand, grabbed the 7-star sword whip, and followed Deacon Ling closely like a shadow, and then with one strike, he slashed towards Deacon Ling's neck, and he let out a murderous kill. Boom! Ling Deacon was as shrill as a ghost, his eyes suddenly turned blood red, and he used the bloody bones of his 2 broken palms to clamp the blade of the 7-star sword whip from the middle. Violent energy rippled in the cave. It erupted with a violent roar, and dozens of stalagmites in the entire cave were shattered at once. Xiaopinggan didn't expect Deacon Ling to be so powerful. When Deacon Ling clamped the 7-star sword whip with his 2 severed hands, the black poisonous gas-like tree roots on his hands spread rapidly towards his arms, but even so, the 7-star sword whip was still clamped by Deacon Ling's severed hand. Why? Ling Deacon roared at Xiaopinggan, staring at Xiaopinggan with his eyes, and blood spurted out from his mouth and nose, because he never imagined that his junior brother would want his life. The Chen-Xing assassin approached again, and the cold light from the dagger in his hand pierced Deacon Ling's throat as fast as lightning. Deacon Ling's arms suddenly burned, and his whole body suddenly burned. Strange purple flames burned on his body. A flaming humanoid appeared on Deacon Ling's body. In the flames, his poisoned arms were in the flames. It turned into nothingness and powder. As soon as the Chen-Xing assassin approached him, he was forced back by a ring of flames that suddenly exploded on Deacon Ling's body. The ring of exploding flames also successfully drove back Xiaopinggan's fatal blow. Hit! A blood-red portal appeared behind Deacon Ling. Behind the portal, thousands of troops and horses could be faintly seen, with flags like a forest, and a ferocious aura suddenly emerged from the portal. At this time, you must not let Deacon Ling summon the things in the secret mandala. While his body was being forced back by the flames, Xiaopinggan took out the tortoise shell 5 elements upside down Bagua sword formation without even thinking, and threw it to the ground. As soon as the formation plate hit the ground, a golden light flashed on the cave floor. There was a vague appearance of a tortoise shell, and mist instantly appeared in the cave, trapping the deacon. A huge black bone dragon in the summoning portal behind him was blocked just after it was halfway out. The summoner is in the formation, and the space of the formation is the summoner's space. If the summoner cannot break the formation, then he will also be unable to summon summons that exceed the volume of the formation space to break the formation. As soon as Xiaopinggan activates the 5 elements of tortoise shell, reverse the formation plate of the Bagua sword formation. The formation plate was like a cork, directly blocking the summoning door of Ling Deacon's secret mandala, and Ling Deacon's summoning spell was directly interrupted. In this way, no matter how much content is in that bottle, it is impossible to pour it out again. Deacon Ling, who had lost his arms, was burning with flames. The flames turned into a human figure with a head, hands, and feet. The two merged into one and rushed directly towards Xiaopinggan, like a crazy demon, roaring, "Who are you? I kill you. When you are in the formation, you are so far away." Xiaopinggan was obviously right in front of him, but for Deacon Ling, As soon as he took one step forward, Xiaoping'an disappeared before his eyes. His whole body seemed to have hit a wall and was bounced back hard. Not only that, 2 handfuls the golden sword suddenly shot out from the mist around him and slashed towards him. The Chen-Seeing assassin approached again, looking like a ghost. With a wave of his hand, dozens of ice pick arrows were shot towards him. Not only that, Deacon Ling's legs were suddenly entangled by 2 vines emerging from the ground, and his movement was suddenly restricted again. Make the deacon roar like a mad lion. Xiaoping'an was in the formation, watching coldly as the flaming figure on Deacon's body grabbed a golden sword in the formation, refined the golden sword into golden juice, and dissipated directly into a light smoke. He watched as Ling Deacon smashed the ice pick and ice arrow, and knocked the Sin Star assassin into the mist with one punch, and his figure disappeared again. He watched as the flames on Deacon Ling's body burned the magic vines he summoned into ashes, and the light dissipated. He saw Deacon Ling use brute force to smash the golden tortoise shell in one array, making the entire array roar and tremble. He saw Deacon Ling destroy the Xuanhuan he summoned, completely melting the formation that turned into ice and snow. The summoner of the Seven Sun realm is terrifyingly powerful. Even if he suffered so many fatal wounds, even if the summoning gate was blocked by the formation, even if he lost his hands, Deacon's combat power was still frightening. However, Deacon was always seriously injured. Only half a minute later, Xiaoping'an saw the black energy like tree roots starting to climb up the Deacon's neck and face. His movements began to freeze, and the skin on his body cracked and fell bit by bit. Although Deacon Ling immediately burned his arms, the poison on the dagger had already invaded his veins and body, and it was already too late. The Deacon's body was bursting, and even the summoning door that had appeared was bursting, shaking, and blurred. The rhythm of his movements began to become scattered, and his steps became more and more solemn. The flaming figure on his body was crumbling, and there were more in the blink of an eye. 7 or 8 bloody wounds. Chen-Seeing assassin flew over again, causing the half-shrunk flame humanoid on Deacon's body to hug Chen-Seeing assassin. Chen-Seeing assassin suddenly turned into light smoke, but Chen-Seeing assassin's shadow flew up and took over the assassin. The fish intestine dagger in his hand was slashed with another sword. A cold light flashed in the formation, causing the Deacon's head to finally fly up. Even at this time, his eyes were still wide, full of anger and unwillingness. Several rays of sword light flew out from the formation, and one sword light hit Deacon Ling's flying head. Deacon Ling's head was directly shattered by the sword light, and 2 more sword rays passed directly through Deacon Ling's head. His shaky body opened 2 fist-sized transparent holes in his chest. Ling Deacon's body finally fell, and the space equipment exploded all of a sudden. The gold coins on the ground surged like underground fountains in the formation, and almost in the blink of an eye, they approached the formation space. Accommodation limit. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 459. Xiaoping'an put his hand in the void and immediately put away his turtle shell 5 elements reversed bag with sword formation. Wow! Gold coins kept pouring out of the void, and in the blink of an eye they piled up into a small mountain in front of Xiaoping'an. At this moment, Xiaoping'an didn't have those gold coins in his eyes. An idea suddenly came to his mind that made him feel dazed and his heart was beating wildly. He had just killed a strong man in the Seven Suns realm. Seven Suns realm? Yes, Deacon Ling is definitely one of the strong men in the Seven Yang realm. The red-robed deacon of the Wanchen sect is the best in the Seven Sun realm anywhere, and he is enough to look down on many summoners of the same level. If it was half a year ago, facing such a strong man, Xiaoping'an would only want to escape, and would never want to be his enemy, let alone fight and challenge him. But at this moment, he relied on his own ability to put Deacon Ling in this place. Killed without any suspense in the cave. He actually killed a strong man in the Seven Yang realm. Xiaopinggan felt like he was in a dream, a little unreal. During the battle just now, Xiaopinggan was tense and his will was as strong as iron. After the battle was over, he suddenly realized what he had just done. Unknowingly, he had accomplished a feat that his former self would never have dared to imagine. After coming to the world of Yuankai for so long, Xiaopinggan suddenly discovered that he had bumped into each other along the way, wandering on the edge of life and death at any time. Under this huge pressure, and inspired by the goal of becoming a god, his strength has quietly grown to this point. Kill the Seven Yang realm. The surging gold coin fountain stopped, and a gold coin rolled to Xiaopinggan's feet, hit his shoes, and rolled on the ground several times before stopping. Xiaopinggan suddenly woke up and returned to reality. Gold coins, gold coins, gold coins. It wasn't until he collected all the 5 or 6 million gold coins that Xiaopinggan discovered a few bottles of divine pills, a few cans of water, some dried meat, and a handful of ordinary horcruxes among Deacon Ling's relics. For a summoner of the Seven Suns realm, carrying only these certain things can be considered a streamlined process. There are not even half of other world beads and spiritual crystals. I don't know if Deacon Ling has already integrated all the world beads he can fuse, or if he just doesn't have the habit of carrying too many things with him. The fight with Deacon Ling just now was intense, and there was already a hint of a collision of divine power. There were many patrols outside the Immortal City at the moment. If he continued to stay in the cave, he might run into the patrols that were attracted. After collecting all the things in the blink of an eye, Xiaopinggan did not stay in the cave for long, but quickly left the cave and flew to another hidden place 5 or 6 kilometers outside the cave to pick food from nearby underground vegetation. After picking up a leaf and casting the Yi blinding technique, he suddenly disappeared into the dark underground gap, completely blending in with the surrounding environment. Everything was as Xiaopinggan expected. Less than 10 minutes after he left the cave, a patrol team from the Immortal City arrived. There were 10 people in the patrol team. The patrol team holds the magic weapon heart lamp in their hands. The magic weapon heart lamp is in these underground gaps in the desert outside the Immortal City. It is extremely sensitive to the fluctuations of divine power, allowing the patrol team to promptly discover the dark caves and cracks in the ground. Anomalies in. If there is a summoner fighting, the magic weapon heart lamp can quickly sense it. Under Xiaopinggan's gaze, the patrol team from the Immortal City entered the cave where he and Deacon Ren had just fought. After a while, the patrol team left the cave and searched the surroundings, but found nothing unusual. Did not find the Zerg, and left. After the patrol left for a full hour, no one appeared in the dark underground gap. Xiaopinggan released his invisible state and flew out from the invisible underground gap. I killed the son of old monster Tianhua. The character Long Huan can no longer appear in the Immortal City. If Long Huan is still alive, it is tantamount to telling old monster Tianhua that he killed his son. Then he is looking for death. Old monster Tianhua from the Nine Yang realm is insidious, vicious, and scheming. He is going crazy. Who in the entire Immortal City can stop him from finding a summoner from the 6 Yang realm to ask for his life? Xiaopinggan shook his head and smiled bitterly, rubbing his face. Damn it, I've only been playing with this vest for a few days, and I need to change it again. The 2 times he joined the Wanchen sect and was forced to leave and change his waistcoat were actually related to the old weirdo Tianhua and the Deacon Ling. This was simply like God's will. Fortunately, this deacon was finally killed by him. After muttering a few words, Xiaopinggan looked in the direction of the Immortal City, disappeared in a flash. A few hours later, a summoner wearing combat leather armor, with short hair, a face as pale as a vampire, more white eyes than black, a cold face, and a cold aura all over his body that was not easy to mess with at first sight flew in from a distance. Immortal City. The summoner came to the entrance to the city gate of the Immortal City, waved his hand, and hundreds of gold coins appeared beside him. suspended in the air, attracting the attention of several summoners around him. Whoever can answer where is the place where the Xuanhuan sect manages affairs in the Immortal City, and where is the best inn and hotel in the Immortal City, I will give these gold coins to him. Some summoners around were stunned. That pile of gold coins, at least several hundred, could be obtained so easily. Although no summoner who comes to the Immortal City will be short of hundreds of gold coins, it is too easy to earn this money. You can earn it in just a few words. This money can also allow a person to live comfortably in the Immortal City. Been on it for several days. No one can have trouble with money. A summoner immediately reacted and pointed in the direction of the Director's Hall and said immediately, the place where the Xuanhuan sect manages affairs in the Immortal City is the Director's Hall. It is in that direction. The tallest building over there is the Immortal City. The best inn hotel is in Xing Manor, and Xing Manor is in that direction. The indifferent summoner waved his hand, and the gold coins flew towards the summoner who answered. Without saying a word, he flew directly towards the Director's Hall of the Immortal City. This man is so strange. Is he here to join the Xuanhuan sect? It should be so. In the past 2 days, Xuanhuan sect has given many benefits to the newly joined outer disciples. Those who perform well among the outer disciples may even get Horcruxes, which has attracted many new people to join. This person has maybe I just heard the news. This guy must be very rich. Another summoner smacked his lips in envy. And this summoner wearing leather armor with a cold expression was the vest that Xiaoping'an had just changed into. Xiaoping'an's choice to join the Xuanhuan sect was the result of careful consideration and was definitely not a whim. Xiaoping'an insisted that Qingshan would not relax. Even if he changed his vest twice, he would join for the 3rd time and would never change his plans due to external forces. The purpose, even if there is the threat of old monster Tianhua. So, here he is again. In the history of Xuanhuan sect, this is probably the first time we have encountered such a persevering disciple like Xiaoping'an. 10 minutes later, in the Director's Hall of the Immortal City, Xiaoping'an once again wrote down the name of his current vest, Zhangtai, on the form that he had already filled out twice. This name seems to be a standard name for passers-by. Just shout it on the street and maybe 3 or 2 Zhangtais will turn their heads. One Zhangtai is selling fried dough sticks, and the other Zhangtai is in the grocery store. It should not cause any strange things. It's about that. While Xiaoping'an was filling out the form, he was thinking in his mind that the name Longhuan before seemed a bit too ostentatious. This was the 3rd time he came here, so it would be better to keep a low profile. He had been thinking about it for a while before he thought of naming himself. Such a low-key name. The Xuanhuan sect is still the same as before. As long as they want to join the Xuanhuan sect, almost all comers are welcome. Apart from Xiaoping'an, he is definitely not the only newcomer in the head office who is willing to join the Xuanhuan sect at this moment. Xiaoping'an quickly completed the procedures for joining the 10,000 God sect for the 3rd time, then walked out of the Director's Hall and flew directly towards Galaxy Manor. Soon, Xiaoping'an checked in at Galaxy Manor. By coincidence, the courtyard where he stayed was less than 300 meters away from the courtyard where Mengziki stayed before. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 460. The courtyard was still the same courtyard, with the same layout as Mengziki's courtyard. However, Xiaoping'an's mood when he entered the courtyard was completely different from before. Mr. Zhangtai, if you have any needs in Galaxy Manor, you can ask the guards patrolling outside to help. If you have friends visiting, the guards of Galaxy Manor will escort your friends to your yard throughout the entire process. Outsiders are not allowed here. When visiting and wandering around, the yard key given to you can activate and close the formation disk in the yard. Many guests who live here like to be quiet and do not want to be disturbed or piqued by others, so our management here is very strict. The summoner who lives here summoned objects such as summoned war partners and pets can only move within their own yards and cannot enter the public areas of the manor. When a summoned maid sent Xiaopingan to the yard, she handed Xiaopingan a key and said, "Okay, I get it. I also like silence and don't want to be disturbed." Xiaopingan glanced at the courtyard with a poker face and nodded indifferently. "Then I wish you a happy stay. If you want to extend your stay, please pay the accommodation fee for the next month before the settlement date. If you fail to pay, the manor may be handed over to the reservation after the yard is due." Guests. After the hotel maid finished saying these things in a stylized manner, she left directly. It wasn't until the maids in the hotel completely left that Xiaopingan habitually summoned the fortune boy and the black dragon, and asked the fortune boy and the black dragon to check inside and outside the yard. After finding that there were no problems, his tense expression relaxed. "It's so damn expensive," Xiaopingan muttered to himself. "I don't know if I haven't lived here, but I was shocked when I moved in." The accommodation fee for Galaxy Manor is paid monthly. The monthly accommodation fee here is no more or less. It is exactly 30,000 gold coins, which is the price of a suite in Shangjing City, the capital of the Great Shang Kingdom. I can only live here for a month. In normal times, Xiaopingan would not be so extravagant, but now that he has made 2 fortunes, he is a little numb to gold coins, and he wants to re-establish the persona of this vest, so it doesn't matter. More importantly, living here is really reassuring and comfortable. There are formations in the courtyard here, patrolling guards outside, and strict management. Most people cannot enter here, so you can quietly cultivate here for a while and consolidate your skills. With your own strength, you can complete the secret method of clone. At this moment, the Wanchen sect still has no requirements for the new outer sect disciples and is completely laissez-faire. Of course, if you want to perform meritorious service, you can apply to join the patrol team of the Immortal City, or go directly to the Abyss Fortress, especially the Abyss Fortress. In urgent need of manpower, if you want to be a lone ranger guerrilla to hunt down those Zerg, you can do that, and the Wanchen sect will not interfere. The conditions for new outer sect disciples to advance to formal disciples are still the same as before, requiring 200 Illumination Realm and 1 Nether Realm Insect Crystal. However, the rewards and commendations for outstanding outer sect disciples have been increased. The Horcruxes and various world beads were taken out. In particular, the Horcruxes awarded to outer disciples by the Wanchen sect are as attractive to many summoners as ordinary people are when faced with millions of dollars in prizes. They are completely irresistible. Under heavy rewards, there must be brave men. Although many people have left the Immortal City these days, the ones left behind are more pure. They are all brave and brave. There are also many summoners of the Immortal Sea who heard that the news came to the Immortal City specifically to make a fortune. Among the new outer disciples of the Wanchen sect, Xiaopingan, who transformed into Zhangtai, is not conspicuous at all. As for the divine power emblem that the Wanchen sect left on him when he officially became a disciple of the Wanchen sect, there is no need to worry about that. The emblem is useful to summoners in the Nine Sun realm, and can remain in the souls of summoners who join the Wanchen section. It was also useful to Xiaopingan before, and it was also useful to soul masters, but it is useless to Xiaopingan at this moment. Because the spirit world is the ancestor of playing with the secret method of the soul, playing with the secret method of the soul in front of people in the spirit world is simply playing a big knife in front of Guangong. After Xiaopingan mastered the secret method of clone, he can easily detect the person who stayed in the soul world. What happened to the divine power emblem in his soul? At this moment, Xiaopingan can easily completely erase the divine power emblem from his body, or he can make it reappear. If the same ritual is completed again, the same will happen. No problem, not letting anyone discover his secret. Standing in his own yard, Xiaopingan looked towards the yard where Mengziki lived before, and murmured to himself, "It's not polite to come back without reciprocating, old monster Tianhua, you gave me 2 big gifts, then this time, it's my turn to return the gift to you. After saying that, Xiaopinggan waved his hand and summoned his Shen-Seeing assassin again, and gave the Shen-Seeing assassin the key to Mengziqi's yard. The Shen-Seeing assassin holding the key suddenly appeared like a void shadow. Just disappeared, completely hidden. The Shen-Seeing assassin left Xiaopinggan's yard and lurked at the door of the yard for a moment. As soon as a group of patrolling guards left, the Shen-Seeing assassin had already arrived outside Mengziqi's yard in the blink of an eye. He took the key to unlock the formation in the courtyard, and then entered the courtyard easily, and came to the secret room of the courtyard. Then he took out the fish intestine dagger and wrote large characters on the wall of the secret room. Under the sharp edge of the fish intestine dagger, metal debris on the metal wall of the secret room crashed down. In a moment, a few lines of large characters appeared in the secret room. Deacon Ling is the apprentice of old monster Tianhua, and Deacon Ling's father has already ascended the throne in Yeli Kingdom with the help of old monster Tianhua. Mengziqi is the son of old monster Tianhua. The old monster Tianhua coveted the divine spring of the Wanshen sect in the Immortal Sea, and sent his disciples to sneak into the Wanshen sect to find out the hidden location of the divine spring and then wait for an opportunity to seize it. Long Huan has been killed by Mengziqi. After leaving these few words in the secret room, the Shen-Seeing assassin left Mengziqi's yard without anyone noticing, and quietly returned to Xiaopinggan's yard to resume his life. After putting away the Shen-Seeing assassin, Xiaopinggan finally let out a bad breath. Long Huan is the sole master of the 10,000 Gods sect, and he is also considered the #1 figure in the Immortal City. Long Huan has been in the Galaxy Manor for a long time, and if there is no news about him and he does not show up, it will definitely attract the attention of the 10,000 Gods sect. As for Long Huan's entry into Mengziqi's courtyard, Galaxy Manor knew about it and it was open to the public. It goes without saying that anyone who can open Galaxy Manor in the Immortal City must have a close relationship with the Wanshen sect. So, what happens next is interesting. If people from the Wanshen sect entered Mengziqi's courtyard to search and discovered that Long Huan disappeared and the words he left in the secret room, I wonder how the Wanshen sect would react? Even if True Lord Styx knew this news, he would probably understand a lot of things at once. It doesn't matter who left the words, what matters is the content of those words, which can be verified. Except for the last sentence, the rest are all true. Old monster Tianhua, just wait for the Wanshen sect's revenge. Xiaopinggan didn't believe that Wanshen sect could swallow this bad breath and tolerate old monster Tianhua's evil deeds. If Wanshen sect didn't teach old monster Tianhua a profound lesson, then Wanshen sect wouldn't be called Wanshen sect, but Wanshen section the turtle sect is fine. Leaving those words behind, Xiaopinggan felt a little regretful. Long Huan's vest could no longer be used. He might not be able to fulfill the promise he made to Yun Daojizi to refine Horcruxes for the time being. Let's see if there is a chance to make up for it in the future. Afterwards, Xiaopinggan put away the black dragon, entered the secret room, and took out the tortoise shell 5 elements reversed Bagua sword formation disc to refine it. This formation played a huge role in killing the deacon this time, allowing Xiaopinggan to experience the beauty of the formation at once. This formation is really useful, especially when using the weak to attack the strong. At that time, in a sense, the effect of the formation was greater than that of the Soul Master. The array plate of the tortoise shell 5 elements reversed Bagua sword formation had been somewhat damaged before. Xiaopinggan took out the array plate, repaired it, and refined the damaged array to perfection. Xiaopinggan, who experienced an over-level actual battle with the formation board and spent several hours repairing the tortoise shell 5 elements reversed Bagua sword formation, had an enlightenment, and his understanding of the formation method and the formation board unknowingly improved. A little deeper. He threw the repaired tortoise shell 5 elements reversed Bagua sword formation into the secret room and started it. He protected the secret room. After sitting quietly in the secret room and meditating for a moment, Xiaopingan took out a pile of gold coins and refined a new formation again. Come on.